Finals is on our doorstep. Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Footy Classified. Plenty to get to, including breaking news surrounding two of the biggest players of two of the biggest clubs. So let's welcome our panel. One of the best journos in the country is Damo and Barret. Damo, welcome to you.
Good evening, Sam.
The medal man, Jimmy Bartel, welcome to you, James.
Good evening, Sam.
And the 12-time leading goal kicker from the Essendon Football Club, the legendary Matthew Lloyd. Welcome to you, Lordo.
Thanks, Sam.
Damo, we start with Essendon. Now, their captain's name, Zach Merrett, it simply won't disappear from trade talk. Why is that?
It's because there's a high degree of disillusionment inside Zach Merrett, Sam, that years of not winning and years of problems at the Essendon Football Club have left him in a situation now where he is continuing to reflect where he's at and where the club is at as part of that. Now, he's contracted to 2027. That will continue to be the public default position. But I now fully expect, on what I've been told now in the past fortnight, that the clubs that have previously come for Zach Merrett will attempt to do so again, and that there will be a lot to play out between now and the close of the trade deadline in mid-October.
Disillusionment. Does he have the right to feel that?
I think so, Sam. He's given his all for that club. He'll have as good a record as anyone that's ever played for the club with best and fairest and what he's achieved there. But you get to an age of 30 where he's at and be thinking to himself, well, you know, am I running out of time? Like, are we going to see a winning final? Are we going to see a premiership in the next 5 years that I've got left? So, Sam, you know, I don't know how close it would be to him requesting a trade or anything like that, because we've heard disenchantment for a number of years, you know, out of the camp or Zach Merrett's camp. But, you know, I can understand his frustration.
We can't keep going through this, can we?
No, you don't want to, and he wouldn't want that unless you're seriously going to put your hand up and say, I want out. He wouldn't like the fact that year after year he's being spoken about. What's your thought?
The club's aware of the unrest that he's got, clearly, because last Monday they met with him and other senior people at the club about the vision they've got for the future. But that's all it ever is with Essendon and the players that they've had for such a long time. There's so many other players exploring other avenues outside of it as well. We'll get to them in a minute. He met with Barrett Scott on Friday as part of his exit meeting. There was nothing said there, Lordo, to your point. He hasn't requested it. And I don't feel we'll see anything public about this unless there is something on the hook from another club. But look, St Kilda made a massive play for him last year. Hawthorn is absolutely interested in him. Collingwood's always interested in quality midfielders. And transactioning it, I'll let that play out if it gets to that stage. But the disillusionment is high and it has not got better in recent weeks.
Can I ask you that, Sam, like what you're getting to here? Does he have to be really careful if he is feeling that way, that he's sort of, there's no way of him getting out of the club?
Yeah.
And you've got to be careful that it's not coming back to every year feeling this way.
This just feels to me from afar, this is getting quite insidious now. Like, this has been years of this. He met with Patrick Cripps 4 or 5 years ago, decided to stay, right? Fine. He signs a long-term deal. Then he gets a big offer from St Kilda at the end of last year. No, I'll go home, talk to my wife about it. I'm going to decide to stay. I think it's getting to the point, Jimmy, where I reckon it's becoming both unfair on Zach and unfair on the club if at the end of every year you've got your captain who is basically the beacon of investment from the other players, if he's always considering leaving. I think they have to either come out and say he's staying for life or trade him.
Yeah, and that's a point, or that's what I'm most curious about, Sam, and it's probably directed to probably yourself and Damo foremost, because you speak to so many people in the industry. Why is it always getting raised? Because we've heard him knock it on the head before and been pretty strong in the way he's knocked it on the head. So what do people need to be comfortable that he's staying at Essendon, and why does his name keep appearing at this time of year?
I think just maybe the false promises that he's continually seeking from the club and getting, but they're only words, Jimmy.
Yeah, but is that the words being driven by Zach, or is it being by his management, or is it the fact that he said, yes, I'm definitely staying? Is there a but that goes in there? Like, we don't talk about players of this calibre constantly looking to get out, but then knock it on the head.
There's issues, obviously, with Draper's free agency status and whether he is going to go public soon, wanting to go to one of the Lions or the Crows. As we reported a couple of weeks ago, the Crows are still interested in him. Laverty is an interesting player at the moment. Ridley, as per Tom Morris's reporting.
Langford,
Parrish, Sartis, Hobbs. Sartis and Hobbs were players that were meant to be a whole lot better place than they are right now.
Both first-round picks.
Yeah.
And we're meant to be part of that next wave. It's a sad state of affairs for the Bombers.
It is, and that's what happens, though, when you lose 13 games in a row, despite the injuries that have mounted on the club. players get disenchanted. We're seeing Oscar Allen leave. We're about to talk about Carlton. So there's no one from good, strong clubs who are successful wanting out at the moment. It's just the lesser clubs.
Speaking of strong, successful clubs, Carlton had been that for a long time. They haven't found themselves in this position for a while, though, Damo. So we've got a new head of footy coming in. Chris Davies is going to be officially announced as their new GM. There is so much happening at this footy club, including the chaotic situation surrounding arguably their best player, Charlie Curnow.
Yeah, and the coach today went public on SEN attempting to take the heat out of this Charlie Curnow situation.
Obviously, from our position, it was it's pretty clear. So it's we don't feel like we're certainly in that position to want to go down that path. That position was well and truly communicated back to him.
Will you answer the phone for offers for Curnow?
No. Our position is pretty clear. We feel like he's an incredibly important person to us, and so he'll figure for us moving forward, and hopefully he's playing out the rest of his career here.
Look, I fully respect Michael Voss's situation, and I think he handled that media moment really well. He was open about it, and he said it's not going to happen. But it's not as if this is going to go away. It's still mid-October before this trade period is up. Like Merrett, he's contracted, but there's now a conditioning of the footy industry that this is going to get real. And just because Michael Voss today has attempted to say it's not going to be something that they explore as a club, but again, I fully expect this to play out in the trade period.
One thing I'll say about Zach Merrett is he's always performed extremely well. Like, he's been the club's best player year in, year out. But one thing they do have to think about with Curnow is he didn't play well. I don't know if it's that he didn't get a good pre-season in, or that he hasn't handled... I don't think De Koning handled that very well. So you've got to look at the player and the person, how they would handle being knocked back and sent back to say, OK, is he the type of player that's going to dig the heels in, have a big pre-season and fight and scrap for Carlton, or is he going to be the type to be disgruntled? And if he's the type to not be able to handle it too well, I think they should explore what they can best get for him. And then if it's worth their while, why not try and be a gun midfield group, if possible, by outing Curnow?
Sorry, just to break that down, you're insinuating there that if he doesn't get his wish, he could sook and not be the player that he should be.
Yeah, know the personality really well, which they know better than I do. And you've got to look at, is he the type, if he doesn't get his way, to dig in and go, I'm a professional, I'm going to be a star and kick 80 goals next year. But if he's not that type, look at, can you keep asking, OK, we'll take Goulder, no. OK, we'll take Blakey and Papley, no. We'll take... And just see what you potentially could get for Charlie Curnow. And
that's part of the exit interview process as well. And you've got to be brave enough with a player who you think might be on the way out to still challenge them to get better. And getting better isn't just for Charlie Curnow or first or second year players. Like, I still had that put on me in my 13th and 14th year. And this is the sort of behaviour that you need to improve. It's the stuff where he probably kicks about 1 in 8 and the crowd loves it and the Carlton fans. But we constantly talk about what's been one of the major issues of Carlton. It's their ball use going inside forward 50. Look at all his teammates just standing there watching. Charlie's not going to use us. That kick's always going to be on with today's footy. You've got the protector zone, someone looking, blasting another one. Everyone's just watching another one sail over their head. So when they have those conversations, or have had those conversations, as you're touching on, Lloydie, go, yep, you're coming back, but we need you completely invested.
And the other player, too, of note there is Jack Silvani. Now, St Kilda has upped its offer for him as well to join them, and Collingwood made the front running on him. The Western Bulldogs are interested. He's still got a decision to make on all of that, but it is St Kilda that's coming really, really hard on him, Jimmy.
I think there's a reasonable argument that this is the worst position this footy club's been in since the salary cap scandal. I mean, if you think about what has happened, and look, this is the best 18 of this year and potentially going to next year. They're missing potentially 2 key defenders, a half-forward flanker in Hollands. Who knows what's happening there? They're 2-time gold medalist in Curnow, and they're number 1 ruckman. And if we go through the timeline of what has happened since before they even kicked a footy up until now. So we know what happened with Luke Sayers. I don't want to open up old wounds, but that was a pretty significant situation for a footy club to lose its president. Nick Newman goes down, arguably their best kick. They lose Jagger Smith before the start of the season. They then lose the unlosable against the Tigers. Mackay's been missing with mental health. We know he's been open and honest about that. Sam Walsh has missed arguably half the season. They go and they back Michael Voss. They lose their head of footy and they've since got a new one. And then look at the guys that want out. They lose 2 assistant coaches. Tom De Koning decides that he wants to leave. They finish 6 wins behind 8th. Like, I know they finished 11th, but they finished 6 wins out of the finals. And now the guy that basically the majority of Carlton fans would have the number 30 on their back when they go to the MCG to watch him play is desperately trying to get out. And look at the last one. So Cody Walker, son of Carlton #1 pick Andrew, sorry, #2 pick, I think he was. Yep. He is arguably going to go pick 1 in next year's draft. Now, we think, according to the AFL and Greeks One, it sounds like the rules are going to change. Carlton might miss out on getting that guy at pick 1. Can you imagine if that was 10 years ago and it was Collingwood and Eddie Maguire maybe missing out on this? Eddie would be in Andrew Demetriou's office basically chaining himself to the desk, saying, you're not doing this to our footy club, and here's what I'll do if you do. Carlton have become so apathetic and so passive. They have lost the ruthlessness that they once had. And I wonder why there's not a sense of urgency about what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's say, well, they were going to lose Nick Dacos, what they would be doing there. And I think Carlton, to be fair to them, that I think it's unfair just to go bang in the space of a 12-month period, or just go, this is a rule that's coming in when you've put so much time and effort across many... But
they do have to do it at some point, I guess, would be the argument.
Yeah, and I suppose they may look to phase it, but the sad part is that they're going to phase it out. They go, OK, if you're a superstar, you can't have them. But if you're a lesser father-son, well, you can have them, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
And as we talk about the litany of problems at both Essendon and Carlton, they were once mighty football clubs that the host broadcaster only 2 weeks ago sought permission from the AFL to not broadcast the game between those two teams, just to underline where they are both at. There was one interesting comment too in the Michael Voss interview today on SEN about Elijah Hollands, who has had many troubles off-field, and the approach the Blues are now taking with him.
Obviously, in that discussion was, up to you to be able to look around and find out, is another place suit you? So that's obviously a discussion that we had with him, and he's clear on where we sort of stand with that.
So you're disappointed with off-field stuff that's led to this?
Absolutely. We've been a little bit disappointed with how it's transpired across the whole year, and I guess the conversation was, if there's another place that is going to get the best out of you, mate, then this is the time to go look for that.
So it's similar to a point with what's happening with the Bulldogs and Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. There's a welfare component to these conversations, and the welfare has been really, I think, adhered to from the club's perspective this year. But both the Bulldogs in Jamarra Ugle-Hagan's case and Carlton in Elijah Holland's case are now prepared to deal with the football side of these matters and to have these players off their books. And I think it's the first time in a while where the football side of it, I think, will become the dominant side of it when it comes to these contracts that are being given to players, because there's been a lot of football missed, and this is the football part of it, not the welfare, but the football part of it has a lot of games being missed by those players.
Are you talking about, in American terms, a buyout of the contract?
Yeah.
So we'll honour some part of the following year.
But we won't have you on our books, and the welfare programs that you do need, and we acknowledge you need, you can go and source them from the money you'll get from the payout. Yeah.
It has happened before. We have had circumstances where players are essentially not paid to play, but it's not a route that clubs have often loved going down. So you're right, Damo, maybe the wheel is finally turning. Speaking of the wheel turning, it's turning its selection at the Magpies, Lordo, and they've got some big decisions to make, none other than Bobby Hill. And there seems to be this conversation around, well, maybe they should perhaps roll the dice. Do you see it that way?
Oh, I don't see it that way at all, and whether he plays at all for the rest of the season, because everything that comes across from every player that's been interviewed over the last couple of weeks suggests that it's just about him winning respect back, getting back on the training track, and but it looks a long way off from playing.
It's awesome to see him back at the club, back with a smile on his face. What's in store for him for the next week or next couple of weeks, who knows?
His well-being is definitely the priority for us at the moment, and he trained really well today, and that's really encouraging. What that looks like going forward, not sure.
We know Bob's super important to what we do, and it's sort of a day-by-day process with him. I think the SNC team just want to make sure he's completing his training, which he's doing at the moment. And, that's up to them when he's sort of fit to be ready, and I think we're just enjoying seeing him around.
At the same time, we've got big things on the horizon, and we need to focus on what we can do, with all due respect, without Bob if he's not turning up, but he knows that we're a much better team with him in it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Craig Kelly, the CEO, did sort of say in a passing comment on radio today that he wouldn't play this week, but it's going to be a constant question mark, isn't it, whether they lose or win that qualifying final if he plays in the following game. But he hasn't played for so long, Jimmy. We do quickly forget in footy how good this guy can be.
Yeah, lit up the MCG, Norm Smith medalist, absolutely dominated grand final. And he's a big moments player. We know he can bob up, he's lively, he's that point of difference, creativity on the forward line. Look at this, a hanger, 1 second looking into the sun, and, some miraculous goals. But when you're hearing the players talk there, they just want Bobby back into a bit of routine and rhythm of life first, and then you add to that then the football component, because they're pretty difficult to walk into hot finals without much under your belt as far as training and conditioning goes.
There's a trust component here, Jimmy, from a footy side of it. Once you lose that, is it impossible to get it back inside the time frame he's now dealing with?
It's going to be difficult, but just going off the back of the players' comments and not knowing what's going on, it sounds like they want to see him back at training, doing everything possible, and then he'd be considered for selection.
How many weeks, Jimmy? He needs to put a good 2 weeks of training. I'm not sure how he went this week, but you need to have a good
couple of weeks.
Yeah, at least a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, you're still missing sessions as recently as a week and a half ago. Yeah. Craig Kelly again, Sam, spoke today about the uncontracted older players, star Collingwood players in Jamie Elliott and Brodie Mychek.
The high performance and the medical side of our game for us compared to when we played is unbelievable. So you're getting these players playing a lot deeper and longer. We also know that'll come to the end really quickly at some stage, maybe for some. So open, honest conversations, paying the right amount of money in the right term for the right time. And sometimes that requires a nice conversation, but a firm one to say, mate, if someone comes at you and offers you a ridiculous amount of money and you're a free agent and you can play for a lot longer through that club, we've got to be open and say, hey guys, go for it.
It is a pretty interesting change of tack, Damo. But this club has held on to these guys for so long, and now it's suddenly, well, if you need to go, go.
And recommitted recently publicly to still Sidebottom and Scott Pendlebury, and rightly so. And look, I've got no doubt that those first two names, Mychek and Elliott, could be at Collingwood, but it's just not yet at the terms that they want. They want 2 years, understandably, and I think the form that they've shown for most of this year would suggest that that's what they're, I think, valid in asking for. But equally, the club has to make a decision at some stage with the amount of players at that age.
Quick yes or no for Lordo. Do you play Cox?
I would this week, yes. With Howe out, I would play him.
No.
Oh, that doesn't help us. Damo, the final vote?
I would.
Okay, 2-1 for Cox. Strong start on Footy Classified. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, there's plenty more, including the final spotlight shining bright. Lloyd and Jimmy pull apart the qualifying finals next. Plus, Trading Places, the latest on the big moves as silly season heats up. And the pre-finals bye. It's once again in the gun as we gather around the water cooler. Don't go anywhere. Footy Classified continues after this.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. We're going to start with the Collingwood v Adelaide game. It's going to be huge at the Adelaide Oval on Thursday night, the first qualifying final. I want to start back only a number of weeks ago, Jimmy, where Collingwood started like a house on fire. And it was this ball movement that really troubled the Adelaide Crows. So when we look at it, their first quarter was their best quarter, and they moved it really, really well. So as they build up here, what you want to do to the Adelaide Crows, their defence is unbelievable, the Adelaide Crows. So you look at these two players, Nick Murray and Keane. You want to have their backs away from goal, and as you do, you see the way they hold out their shape, the pies, lower their eyes. They did that really well in the first quarter. Bit of chaos footy, but after that, it just turned to this. So the score just become an arm wrestle, and this is what the Adelaide Crows do like, Jimmy, which Collingwood didn't give them early, but they got comfortable and they defended 71 entries.
Yeah, they slowed them down from behind the mark. But for me, Lloydie, Collingwood just absolutely shelled the Crows. Those 70 entries. So probably the next layer for the Crows, my apologies, is how do you get yourself out of that back line and out of that back 50? You can't just keep taking inside forward 50s as we're watching, and you touched on. So you can't keep having numbers flood back, because eventually some of these ones might actually land in hands of Collingwood players and they start to rack up the score and you get camped behind the footy. So you'd love to see pushing up to these areas, that quick release mark. You know, could it be a Curtin? Could it be a Keys as a high half forward, or one of the big boppers on the forward line? Is it Thilthorpe or Big Fog or Walker? Just take that release mark. It can be just a little 15-metre kick boundary side, so if you miss it, you get a boundary throw, which is not too bad. But then you get everyone set up and you get back up into the game.
Because you're saying, Jimmy, if they concede Adelaide another 71 in, they won't win that game, will they?
No, I don't imagine so. I think eventually the weight of numbers, Collingwood would get you if you give up that many.
Now, selection dilemmas. So let's take a look at some decisions that have to be made. So Beau McCreery, you pick him, don't you, if he's fit?
If he's fit. He's that high-energy player. Good things happen. He works, pretty much 150 metres up and down the ground. Who replaces Jeremy Howe?
Well, I'm big on McStay maybe going back here. Rather than Charlie Dean, I wouldn't go back to Charlie Dean. So McStay can go back. Mason Cox can play in the forward line. And the last one, McStay, again, I think he's in their best 23.
I want to ask you, you always say you need finals experience to really go all the way. the Crows, they're finally into it. Can they get over the Pies?
Yeah, I think they can. Yeah, I think being at home in front of that big crowd, Jimmy, I think it'll be enough to get them over the Magpies. What about you?
I think Collingwood by 2 points.
Jimmy, the second game we'll take a look at is obviously the big other qualifying finals. Geelong versus the Brisbane Lions. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Both teams in red-hot form. I think the Premier may well come out of this game. Whoever wins this will win the game. But how do you play Harris Andrews?
Well, the only 2 times I've seen the opposition play well against him in a big final. I know Frampton did a good job in the grand final. But look at this, how sad this COVID times, of course. But Ben Brown was able to get up, use those little tick leads, and he actually would start on the back shoulder. So this one here, he's on the back shoulder of Harris Andrews. So wait till the kicker's ready, and you can come up high, and then what that does, it takes away Harris Andrews from his key position, which is about 35 metres out from goal and dictating the game. This is another option here. So big Tim Tam Tom, he used to get the match up because he was physical, little tick lead. So this would be Cats, whether it be maybe be Shannon Neal, if it's him. If it's Mark Blitzarves, he can play more the Ben Brown role. So he can do it in 2 different ways. If Blitzarves needs to go on the ruck, Neal come across. Just little tick leads, get back shoulder, because Harris Andrews can set up the game.
Brilliant vision, Jimmy. Here's the barometer for the Brisbane Lions in defence. Wanted to look at the last time they met, and I thought Brisbane, it was a masterclass by Chris Fagan when they beat Geelong in Geelong. And they're so measured, so they're getting a lot of uncontested marks. They picked the Fremantle Dockers apart recent weeks just by uncontested marks, and then they got one-on-one. So very measured. Don't bomb to Tom Stewart. Look at Henry behind the ball saying, kick it to me, kick it to me. They didn't allow it. They were really measured in what they did. They were smart, and then they'd go out to the open side again to a 1v1 where Eric Hipwood took the mark. Brilliant. And then they cut off all of Geelong's ball movement early. Wilmot come up as a half-back flanker. And game over it was at quarter time, Jimmy. 4-1. Geelong never recovered.
And Geelong have got a clean bill of health, though, Lloydie. So are they firing a little bit better, even though the Lions can beat you in many different ways?
Oh, it's a great position to be. Gee, they do it well, Geelong. They have players who just are always laid outs, and they're smart with the way they manage their players. So if they weren't playing Brisbane, I'd tip them against anybody else. But because I think Brisbane are the best team in the competition, I'm going the Brisbane Lions in this one.
I'm going to put my Cats pyjamas on and go the Cats, just.
Yeah, we'll look at the other 2 finals later on.
Cannot wait. And you're both tipping opposite teams in both games. That's how tight the qualifying finals are going to be. Great stuff. Don't go anywhere on Footy Classified. The water cooler is next, and after a decade of the pre-finals bye, is it finally changed for a rethink? But coming up after Footy Classified, do not go anywhere. Do not change that channel. Players is the hot new show. It is flying on YouTube. It's flying on 9. And this week, Jarman Impey, Isaac Quaynor, and that man is just about the #1 go-to man with eyeballs when it comes to social media. That's Jack Ginnivan. It's Players. It's after Footy Classified. I think the water cooler this week, boys, has to be the pre-finals bye, which we have all just endured, both as footy fans and players and coaches alike. But let's go through a little trip down memory lane, because this is how it all transpired, and this is why the rule changed.
We've earned that opportunity, but that sits within the rules of the AFL. So we are fatigued. There does need to be management of our players. There's no impact on any other teams in the competition. It doesn't impact Port. And we can't improve or lessen our position. So clearly it's an opportunity.
I make no apologies for the fact that I'm going to do the best thing by our club, the best thing by our players, the best thing by our team and our supporters, and that is to be in the best possible shape we can be in the first week of finals.
What happened in round 23 this year was unsatisfactory, and we committed to addressing that, and I think we have.
So I think we all understand why it happened. The question is it still working?
I think we've been very fortunate that a Star hasn't missed a grand final now with the concussion protocols of 12 days. I think we've just gotten lucky. I think we applaud how we manage concussion, how quickly we, diagnose players on field, whether it be arc and then be really cautious. But we're going to have a preliminary final where, a Star goes down and they'll miss the grand final.
So what you're saying, Jimmy, you'd rather the bye after the prelim and not what we've just had?
Yeah, that's just my personal thoughts of it. I'd love that last week to be, between preliminary final and grand final, to be a celebration of football. Put the awards nights in there, the Brownlow, VFL, SANFL, all those sort of grand finals. You have your future stars. It can be an incredible week build-up and you almost turn into 10, 12 days of festival of football.
I am with you too, Jimmy. I feel it should be the week before the grand final, not the week after the home and away season, for the same reasons you said, the concussion ones. And the reasons they brought it in, I can understand they did react in that year, but it ultimately has not affected the competition in the same way since. So it's almost null and void.
But how do we know that, Damo, given that they're not making the changes now because the rule changed?
But, Sam, we've had a situation this year where Collingwood chose the rest players in round 14, 15. I mean...
That's just good management, right?
Well, what's to say that's not going to happen in the future again? And the fact it's round 22 as it was in that year of 2015, it's almost irrelevant. Clubs, I think, are entitled and allowed to get themselves to the position on the ladder that they want to get to. And just because it happened in round 22, it heightened it, but it hasn't happened since.
I think you weigh it up, the impact on round 24 or the impact on a grand final. And I think the impact on a grand final with a star player outweighs the impact on a game that doesn't really matter in round 24.
But do we need a bye at all? Can we just go all the way through?
I don't mind the bye to reset, but again, to me, reset like they do in the Super Bowl, reset for the big game, not for the remaining matches in the playoffs, as they call it in the States. Does it favour the teams outside the top four, Lordo, when it comes to the week off?
Yeah, I think it does. I know it
unfairly.
Unfairly, because you have a week off, you win, you have another week off, and I think it was trending not in a good way. I think it rebounded the last year or so. But one thing I will say about the bye, the first week, I think the games, the quality of it, by giving the players that break.
Yep.
The first week of the finals goes up tenfold. But, hey, Damo, it's also that time of year where we have trades. I want to ask you about a key saint. With De Koning coming in, what happens with Rowan Marshall?
Yeah, there's still a decision to be made by Rowan Marshall and the people around Rowan Marshall. I believe those decisions, Lordo, will get a pointy-ended nature late in the week when he sits down finally to resolve whether he wants to maintain the contract he's got for 2027. But I still think it's line ball as to where he will be next year, and because of the De Koning situation coming into the Saints.
Speaking of next year, Sam, Zach Butters has another year to go at the pair. Will he remain there?
Yeah, so he's a restricted free agent at the end of next year. Now, I know a lot of the discussion has been around that Port Adelaide will shut down any talk. It's a little bit like the Carlton and Curnow situation. So I wouldn't personally be buying into that. I think Zach Butters will be privately exploring all different options to be traded this year, and I would still have Hawthorn at the head of the queue. Now, I know that the Western Bulldogs are playing on the fact that they're geographically closer to where he grew up in Bacchus Marsh. Geelong might even be in that conversation as well. I'm sure Essendon would throw their hat in the ring given the money that they have. But
game on this year.
Yeah, it's definitely game on this year for Zach Butters.
Yep.
David Windhager, I think he's an important player, but to the Saints.
Yeah, they do. Well, more than they did maybe this time last week. They've increased their offer from 2 years to 4 years, and that's on the back of North Melbourne going really hard at him for a deal, I believe, longer than that and for far greater money than that. He's still got to make his mind up, but at least the Saints have come to the party from a 4-year perspective.
Melbourne have been bold in recent times, Sam. They've moved their coach on and got some new appointments. Will they be as bold with some of their big names like Christian Petracca?
Yeah, the Petracca situation continues to intrigue me. It was about this time last year that he demanded a trade. Melbourne continued to play it down. We saw this weird hostage-style video where he said he's happy to stay. He's not happy to stay. Having said that, I would think whoever comes in as new coach will have a big impact. So, like, if a Nathan Buckley came in and sat him down and said, I want to turn you into the best player in the competition again, my gut feel is he'd stay. If it's not, and they go down the road of a younger coach, and it might look like to Christian they're taking a few more years to come up, again, I throw those same clubs that were in for Zach Butters, they will be in the conversation for a Christian Petracca.
Would Melbourne have to pay a fair bit of his salary?
It depends. Has he been the same player since that injury last year? Just take away the fact that he doesn't want to be there. The physical thing, I think, is a big question mark over him, but I don't think you'd have to pay nearly as much of Christian's salary as you would, say, Clayton Oliver's. Just given everything that's happened. So much more coming up on Footy Classified. I know you two have just sat down. You're going to have to go back to the plasma because they're doing the elimination finals next. We've got good call, bad call, the cook, and a whole lot more on Footy Classified.
We're going to look at the Giants versus the Hawthorn elimination final, Jimmy. And the key for me is Finn Callahan. I think he's the best player for the Giants. And his best mate, Marcus Windhager, played on him in the last game of the year. And he was brilliant. I still thought he fought through it so well, Finn Callahan. So I think Connor Nash is the man that must go to him. So you see Marcus Windhager there. So even at centre bounce, he's become an inside-outside player. So they're the ones. Look at Marcus Windhager. He gets everyone. He gets scalps, but his ability to push him under the contest and then break away, outstanding. So Nash, do your best at trying to chase and harass him. He doesn't seem to get flustered too much.
No, and you're right with Nash because he's got the physicality. Yeah. He's actually deceptively really big, Finn Callahan, so he can stand up in tackles. And he, as you mentioned, he runs and overlaps really, really well, and he drives the ball forward, and a great combination with Green. But for me, Lloydie, is we talk about the Orange Tsunami and the way the Giants have been playing their football, and it's transition. So it's your transition versus our transition, and this has been the big improvement for the Hawks when they got back into form. They've got their transition game and tempo off the back of their high forward. So you think the Little Wizard, of course, Moore as well, All-Australian, of course, in the previous year, the way they're out overlap, and Ginnivan as well, who's in sensational form. So when you got those three who are starting up at half-back and launching the football, you think their matchup's going to be Whitfield and Ash. And what do they want to do? They want to actually generate ball from half-back. So it's going to be a fascinating watch of how much space those two half-backs for the Giants give those small forwards, because they can both springboard from each other's half-back line.
Both teams have gun smalls everywhere, don't they? Darcy Jones, I love. Toby Green, the work. So who wins for this one, Jimmy?
Who are you going to go?
I'm going the Hawks.
I'll go the Giants.
So 0-8. 0-8 in this round, but I'm tipping the Hawks still.
Can't wait for Lloyd.
So surely we tip the same in the next one. So it's Fremantle at home off a huge win by the Dogs against the Gold Coast Suns. And Darcy and Jackson, yes, I haven't been the biggest fan of that, but I think they can run Big Witsy, who's a workhorse, into the ground, and Luke Jackson's ability to run. Like, he's a ruck rover. So here he is against the Sydney Swans, and he just pushes Laddams, he's up against here, but his ability to leave the ruck and just push forward and challenge every ruckman that he's playing on is massive. And this one again, he's even behind Briggs from the Giants, just leaves him in his wake. So unless you bumper bar him and push him, and he just does this to you. You got Darcy Cameron as well of the same. So I think the double teaming against Jared Witts could be too much, and this was him against the Dogs. Critical times, drifting forward. He's a real weapon for the Dockers.
Yeah, and while you're talking about tall weapons on the forward line, we know the other big three on the forward line, they can get a hold of you. Of course, Amos, and then you've got Tracy, and then you've got Voss. So we're going to the selection table, of course, the Gold Coast Suns, and they actually did a pretty good job last time they played. So Mac Andrew played one of his best games of the year on Tracy, keeping him goalless. Collins and Voss. Voss kicked 3 on Collins, and Hewlin was able to keep Amos to 1 goal. Of course, being a little bit undersized, he can float off. But let's go back to this Mac Andrew contest. I thought he actually got his bodying really well timed. So he bodied up Tracy really well and then used his long reach to then get the spoil in. At different times, he can get a bit far off and he doesn't get actually the opportunity to use his athleticism. And then defended him really well in the lead. He was right up behind him and didn't give him much. So it was such an intriguing battle in what was a really close game up there at People's First Stadium. So that'll probably be the matchups likely early in the game. Mac Andrew to Tracy, Collins probably takes Voss, and then Hewlin on Amos.
Jimmy, who has the better midfield? Fremantle or the Gold Coast Suns?
I think what Fremantle have been able to do at three-quarter time, where they've been able to fight back against opposition's good midfield, will keep them in good stead. So I'm going to tip the Dockers.
I'd love to say the Suns to go the opposite, but now I'm tipping the Dockers as well.
So you two are tipping 3 out of 4 differently?
Yes.
You should have some sort of wager, maybe a bottle of Grange or something. Much more coming up on Footy Classified. Good call, bad calls next. Welcome back, and we start with Jimmy Bartel. Jimmy, David Swallow will retire without a final to his name. Good call, bad call?
I think this is a bad call from you, Sam. If I'm at the selection table of the Gold Coast Suns, I'm picking David Swallow. You look at their last 3 subs, Rogers, Sexton and Malcolm Rosas. I don't think you lose anything with having David Swallow in the side. He can play a number of roles. He can do a run with, play half-back, wing. I think he gives you flexibility. What's the harm of having that man as a sub, even if it's a little emotional hook for the final?
I agree, Jimmy. Sam, this one's to you. Journalists should never reveal their sources. Good call, bad call?
No, I think you're referring to this from Mark Allen. It's a bad call. It's a nasty call, and quite frankly, a pretty sarcastic call. He's allowed to go with his sources. I don't think he'll play for St Kilda, but he's allowed to report whatever he wants. Bad call from you, Damo.
Damo, Carlton and Essendon fans have only one man to blame for this season's from hell. Good call, bad call?
It's a really good call, Otto. That man is Craig Hutchison. He is the cooler. He could stop trains. He can stop... He might even stop tomorrow. But what he did here in a bet that he had with a few big people in the AFL was predict that Carlton and Essendon both would make finals, and it's cost him. So, yeah, good call, Otto.
Hey, Lordo, while you're running hot, you always need to be camera ready in this industry. Good call, bad call.
Good call, Jimmy. You do not miss anything, call. It's Mitch Cleary. We all love Mitch here, but could have been on Crime Stoppers by the end of this. He was covering this story behind Patrick Cripps.
Oh, that's very good, Lordo. Damo, North season from hell is carried into the AFLW. Good call, bad call?
It's a really nasty call from you because the AFLW team at North is going beautifully. Despite the ankle injury to Jazz Garner, who I think, Sam, is the best player in the AFLW on my watchings of it. As we speak, it's ligament damage, still yet to be declared as to how serious it is. But massive win against Fremantle.
I'd say it's a nasty call.
It's a bad call.
It's season from hell injury-wise. That's what I meant.
Sam,
we didn't say that.
Sam, I know you're a big EPL fan.
I am.
Carlton must wish Charlie Curnow was a West Ham fan. Good call, bad call.
No, this is a good call from you, Jimmy. This is, I was watching Stan's Sport Call. Look at this from the EPL. This is Lucas Paqueta scoring a penalty. What does he do? No, I picked up the call for a trade. No, thanks. I actually love West Ham. I'll kiss the emblem. Great celebration. I wonder if we'll see Charlie Curnow do that in Navy Blue round 1. Good call from you, James.
Jimmy, Brian Taylor should listen to some Ross Lyon wisdom. Good call, bad call.
Well, let's take a look. I think this might be from last night. Maybe Footy Furnace.
Reports this week, he's told those close to him he wouldn't be against a sea change. The Blues have shut it down. He won't be going anywhere.
That's come from nowhere. As far as I'm concerned, it's been made up.
Brian Taylor. Hope that journalists don't just make up stories, and I've kept that as a receipt for the last 6 weeks, and I take it in jest, I smile at it, but clearly we know now that it wasn't a fib or a made-up story, and I would hope that in future BT would speak to his boundary reporter down there, Mitch Cleary, and get a handle on what the truth is before he said that.
Well, I think that might be a good call from you, Lloydie. The Tomo bomb. Don't run into it.
That's a pretty amazing story from Tom. He went with that months ago and everyone laughed at him. And it's ended up being the biggest trade story of the year.
He said he's kept receipts.
Hey, Lordy, you can never go the early crow in this game. Good call, bad call.
Good call by you, and unfortunately the man to my right, Sam McClure, got caught up in finishing on top of the ladder without the job being done. So you put that in our WhatsApp group. Forget Lloydie. He's not even the best coach on the Footy Classified panel.
Hang on.
We just finished top, but this is grand final result yesterday. One won a flag and one, unfortunately, is commiserating.
Yeah, the whole station is supposed to be a team. All right? We're supposed to be a team here at Footy Classified.
Was that in the private WhatsApp?
There are leaks. That was a personal exchange, and I will be contacting my lawyers after the break.
The Michelin Man was introduced in 1894, and here he is, a photo. I was just entranced by it when I grew up as a kid. It's been forever. So 1894, and I think Jimmy knows where I'm going here. I saw the closest thing to it live in person over the past 3 or 4 days, and that was our man Jimmy. He was decided to try and be a goalie, playing ice hockey for Melbourne.
That was the Melbourne Mustangs.
And this is some of Jimmy, the Michelin Man efforts there.
Where's your reflexes?
I've never seen a worse goalie.
Stop that one.
I reckon the Michelin Man could have done a better job.
Stop that one.
And he's an inflatable, Jimbo. So
didn't get that one.
By the end of it, you're in the fetal position by the end of that.
I couldn't stand up. I was like a baby giraffe on those skates.
So you can do most things, but certainly...
I've never seen you as uncoordinated at anything.
Listen to you, Eggs.
Nasty from both of you. He's put his body on the line there, as if you two would do that.
That was an incredible amount of fun. They were firing slap shots at me. You didn't get all the ones I got, did you?
No, I've left those out.
Yeah, of course.
That's what we do here.
Final spotlight tension continues between Lordo and Jimmy. We will identify that before the year is out. Thanks for joining us on Footy Classified. Remember, tomorrow night it is Eddie, Hurdy, Rory and Tom. And how about this for a special guest? The very own Nazaya Wanganeen-Millera. Naz himself, thank you for joining us on Footy Classified. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the first week of finals.